Hello, and welcome to this introduction to my little Blender game project. My name is Robin, and through this thing I will go through what I've learned and what I learned on my little journey to make a small little project in the Blender game engine. As you can see here, I have my first scene set up. I've already gotten started a little bit. I set up these two rooms as my starting ground, and I'm starting to block out the final assets for these rooms. You can see I still have some white boxing left. Throughout this work where I will try to make a game, a small little game, hopefully. I don't know if I get there, but at least hopefully I will have learned some pretty nice stuff and be able to show off the capabilities and not capabilities of the game engine. Maybe I fail, maybe it's not possible, but what I've seen so far, at least it should be possible to do something not half decent. So I don't think it looks that bad, and it runs pretty fast. So for you who are watching this either just because you want to see the game engine or because you're interested in how I've created the assets, I will try to go through both asset creation in terms of the props to character assets. And one of the first things I'm going to do, as you can see, the camera, it's not very well set up. It's very quickly implemented. A movement script and a camera script that is actually moved right now with Q and E and not the mouse, which is pretty horrible. I'm gonna go into the kind of scripting part later, and first I will set up the assets. And try to make this room look nice. And when I'm done with this, when I've done a few tutorials or videos of how I set up the final room, and I'm happy with the rendering, I will move on to scripting and creating enemies and basic things like managers and ammo. If you wonder what I do when I don't make Blender videos, I make video games professionally, so I don't really know why I'm doing this in my spare time, but I really love making games, so even though I make games every day, I'm going to do it now as well. I'm pretty happy with the start of the scene, even though it's not done, but with the quite a simple setup. It didn't take more than a few hours to set up and make all the assets that you see in the scene. I'm pretty happy with the start result. I've implemented some Fresnel effects. I've used on some of the assets, like this lamp here, I've used PBR shader from the community. Other than that, most things are just simply shaded. With some nodes set up. I'm going to show you how I set up the nodes. And then we have a simple room bake. So it's nothing super complicated, really. Probably I will bake the shadows, but I'm not sure. Right now it's only ambient baking. And the reason for it being only ambient baking is because I just didn't like the results, and also I like to have real-time lights that refer with the player, so the player can cast shadows on things when he's running around in the world like this, and that the objects doesn't cast double shadows. And I don't think that the performance is doing so poorly, so I don't think it matters much that I have real-time shadows. Of course it could be better, maybe it would look better, but it's not that simple, because even if I could bake this room, and I'm going to try to bake it in cycles, the problem you get is really with the interaction of the player moving through the room after you bake the entire room, because I use a lot of fake lights. There are, maybe 10 different lights in the room, not only the ones casting shadows, only 2 casting shadows. And so these fake lights, when you bake, they cast shadow, and it just becomes like a mess of shadows everywhere. And I kind of like this more controlled approach. And this might be because I'm a little bit old school when it comes to game development, where you fake quite a lot of things, and maybe it's better to do it baking-wise. But that's just a personal preference. But the only thing that I haven't made in this scene is art on the walls. Is actually from a concept artist at the studio I work on, and I made the mesh that makes it look like sort of a painting. But other than that, I haven't painted the paintings. And the character that I'm using is using Fuse. I created this character in Fuse, which is a program where you can generate characters, and I'm pretty happy with the result. I'm probably going to build my own character, but it was the fast way to get up and running, and he is auto-rigged through Maximo, using Maximo animations for the third-person stuff. So, if you start here, you can see it's not blending super well, but it's a start. So we can zoom out here, and we can see sort of how the basic layout of the scene is set up. So yeah, in the future videos I will go more into how I built assets. I'm probably gonna go through how I set up an asset like this table with the building the chairs. So it's gonna go with the table. I might go in if someone is interested. I might talk about how I did this one. This is actually quite simple. It's simulated with Blender cloth, and when I got something that looked nice, I baked that out and made a LOD. And all of the materials I'm using almost are made in Quixel suit, which I like to use quite a lot. It's a really nice tool, and I have a look into it and show why. Most professional game developers use it to make materials and textures. So the first thing that I am going to do is create this cultist from the sculpt into an enemy character. So this is what I'm working on right now. I've been working on this sculpt, and when I got to this stage, you could spend quite a lot of more time. Maybe I spent 10 hours in total in this, and I think it's good enough. And the reason for that is a lot of the details, you could put a lot of the details into the texturing and stuff into the mesh as well, but generally I think it's better to let that be done by Quixel later, which can add normal maps and can actually also use NDO in Quixel suit to add normals. And when you want to add these kind of detail normals for the texture, I think that generally gives a better result, and it saves a lot of time, because time is essential. Building a game, you're going to create a lot of assets, and you don't want to spend too much time on every asset. You want it to be good enough, I would say 80%. And then, taking the character through the entire process is still going to take quite a long time. We have to make it low poly from this sculpt. We have to create all the textures, and after that we have to rig the character and get him in the game, and then we also have to build AI for him so that he attacks the player. So yeah, that's quite a lot of work. But my next video, this is just kind of an introduction video where I talk about what I'm gonna do and kind of give you a little bit of hint of what I'm up to. I'm we're just doing this kind of introduction, talk a little bit about what this project is about, and hopefully you're interested and you find this cool. And if you have any questions or specific things you want to know, how did you do this, or can you talk about this and that throughout me making this, please put something up on the Blender Artists or in the comments below. It can be something related generally to game development. I've worked on titles from Warhammer to Dead Island to quite a lot of stuff, so on console and PC and everything in between. Hopefully I know someone who can answer your questions, or can answer the questions myself. Yeah, so this is just the introduction, and we're gonna be really interesting to go into it and see how the engine performs, and what kind of hacks we can do to get to the end result. Happy blending.